right, welcome into Rock Hard Music. I am Rob, your host. And today, happy Easter, everybody. Whether you celebrate or not, well wishes regardless. I myself, our family doesn't do a lot for many holidays anymore. You know, with when you start losing some of the, the foundation of your family that used to hold all the holidays together, you kind of just use them as me days, right? So if that's what you're doing, I feel you. I pretty much slept off and on all day, did a few videos here and there. And in the spirit of Easter, I figured I would do something nice, right? So I came up with a new feature here called Top 5 from 5. And we'll see how this goes, but I might keep that title as a new series on this channel. The idea is, in this case, it's going to be top 5 songs from 5 bands that I never liked or cared for or really looked into because it just wasn't my thing. And if it goes off well and you guys enjoy it, maybe we'll continue top 5 from 5 with other categories involved. So, in the spirit of Easter and being kind, I am not going to have a negative word to say about these bands or songs. Some of these were harder than others for me to find 5 songs that I could not just tolerate, but kind of enjoy listening to depending on my mood. So without further ado, let's get rolling. We'll start with Guns N' Roses. Okay, I think everybody's well aware of my take on a lot of these bands that are going to come up here, but having to find 5 songs with these bands is kind of interesting for me because it forces me to give them another shot and look through, and believe me, off and on all day, I have combed through a lot of these bands' music, and this is what I come up with. My Michelle. And I even liked this back in the day when they came out. I always thought it didn't belong on Appetite because it was better than Appetite. It was a different style. Same with Think About You. I really enjoy that song. Rocket Queen, I've always thought was kind of cool. Used to Love Her, of course, off of Lies, the previous 3 being off Appetite. But Used to Love Her, I originally kind of just thought was funny. But over the years, when it comes on Hair Nation or whatever, the rarity that they actually play that one, it's really a good tune, right? I mean, it's got a good melody, and it's a fun song for considering the content. And then Don't Cry from the Use Your Illusion experiment. Not into longer songs, and that was kind of the staple for, that double album set. But this song really did have some good composition to it. Axl's voice didn't drive me up a wall because it was calm and tamed down, and that's kind of the current theme through these 5 songs. It's where his obnoxious, screamy voice wasn't really featured. More of a mellow, not mellow per se, but just more of a subdued vocal approach on these songs. They all had really good choruses and melodies to them. So I didn't have a lot of problems finding 5 Guns N' Roses songs, believe it or not. Let's move on here to the next band, Aerosmith. This wasn't that tough either. I'm really hard on Aerosmith because of their 80s stuff. And it had nothing to do with how they dressed. The songs were overly cheesy to me. Like Ragdoll, Love in an Elevator, Dude Looks Like a Lady. And then they went into their ballad stuff with Janie's Got a Gun and Crazy and all. And they're terrible at ballads. They really are. They're absolutely brutal at ballads. But on my list, I got Sweet Emotion, which I always liked, even as a kid. Dream On, same thing. Pretty much everybody who liked rock music liked those 2 songs. My favorite song ever from them is Back in the Saddle, which I was introduced to by a buddy, Brian Melvin, back in high school to that song. Same Old Song and Dance and Eat the Rich, I discovered later in life from TV soundtracks, movie soundtracks, and stuff like that. So this wasn't overly difficult. I probably couldn't add any more to it, but these five just kind of stood out as good tunes that I could listen to with no problems at all. So, getting to the next band, we've got Zeppelin. Now, this was difficult. This took me about an hour of combing through their catalog. Some of these songs I had heard parts of, but never knew the names, so that's why it took so long. It's not, I don't like going to a greatest hits because as a Kiss fan, I know if you just stick with the greatest hits, you're missing out on some really good tunes. So I'd go album by album on Spotify through these bands looking for something that, caught my ear. Of course, I knew Whole Lot of Love, and I liked that, and the Immigrant Song. Especially the Immigrant Song, because you'd hear that with a lot of, back in the day in the 90s, right? And you go to the bars and they have live cover bands and shit, pretty much everybody play Immigrant Song. Kashmir I put on, Misty Top Mountain. The song title looked interesting to me, so I played it, and I had heard parts of it before, and I really liked that. And Going to California was one that I just I don't think I've ever heard it before, and it's a pretty decent song. So, but I did have to comb through a lot of Led Zeppelin because I'm not saying anybody's not talented or a great band or a legend or whatever. I'm just saying their sound didn't do nothing for me over the years. And with Led Zeppelin, especially, while Plant has a good voice, sometimes it comes across most of the time for me as just screaming noise. Not like Axl Rose, but I don't get the appeal. And the song structure for these guys, for the most part, in my opinion, is kind of all over the place. I mean, you had like 3 or 4 different, guitar jams throughout songs and just taking way too long to get to next verses and stuff like that. So these 5 I can listen to and enjoy for the most part, depending on my mood, of course, like anything. Let's go to the next. We've got Motley. This was the easiest because though I've never been a Motley Crue fan, they did major in my genre of music, right? So you're bound to throw out some good hits or good songs here or there. Right off the top, I knew because my 2 favorite songs of the band in their history is Same Old Situation and She Goes Down. They're great songs, but largely because they were a part of, back in the day, we'd cruise Main Street Friday and Saturday nights, right? You just cruise up and down, packed bumper to bumper. And then you pull into your designated, Clicks parking lot and hang out with people. And everybody had their tunes jamming and shit. And this was a big part of that, those 2 songs especially. Even way back as a kid, I do like Motley's debut album. And Piece of Your Action and On With the Show, I really, really like. And I've liked them since I first heard them back as a teenager. And then to me, the only one that stands out on Shout at the Devil is Too Young to Fall in Love for me. I could have picked a couple of more off of their debut album. This Motley Crue I had the easiest time for. And my problems with Motley Crue are mostly not of any fault of theirs. It's in my opinion, the vast overrated status they got almost instantly for basically just stealing Kiss's look, right? And then they're glamorizing hard drug use and to this day still acting like a bunch of teenagers in heat. I just don't like their personas. I don't think they're good human beings. I think they need to grow up. But if you get past all that, which admittedly is tough for me to do, they do have some good tunes. So moving on, we've got The Who. This was the hardest one for me. And believe it or not, I suppose I mean, what, they came out in the mid 60s, right? So this is well before my time. You know, when I was born in 73, so by, you know, my music picking days, other than just liking what you hear on the radio that your parents are playing or whatever, was my brother introducing me to Kiss with Destroyer. So when you come across a band like that, obviously all your time and energy is going to be spent digging into their catalog and learning about them. And of course, I like stuff that my mom would play, Elvis, ABBA, you know, stuff like that. So I didn't go back digging to a lot of these mid to late 60s band, even early 70s bands, because I didn't need to. I had so much currently going on in the music world. So I was in shock. I spent almost 2 hours today going through the Who's catalog. I had no clue that they were actually, the first few albums, at least 2 or 3, right, were kind of like 50s and 60s rock, right? That really surprised me, because when I think of them, I think of Won't Get Fooled Again. I think of the loudest band in the world and all that stuff that they were at the time. And I just assumed that they were a Led Zeppelin-esque band, just hard and loud. I had no idea they actually were at one time, you know, like I said, an oldies type band. And it's, some of the stuff's pretty decent. So in searching through their stuff, it was hard, other than Won't Get Fooled Again, which I've always liked. In the 80s, and I don't know when it came out, I guess I didn't make notes, but in the 80s on the radio, there was always You Better You Bet. And I always loved that song. I was not aware that The Who sang it. So that was a pleasant surprise. That made that easy, because I love that song. Who Are You? Great song. I Can See for Miles. Again, it's kind of one of those oldies type songs, right? Maybe 60s Woodstock-ish type sound. And then Eminence Front, I just started hearing the last couple of years on radio stations, and I've always liked it. And again, never cared to find out who it was. So, but beyond this, I searched every album, and man, their style is so kind of all over the place and out there that I couldn't find a lot. So, but the ones I did choose, I mean, I really like. We're not talking about, yeah, I could do that like some of these other bands. These songs I like a lot, especially You Better You Bet. To me, that is just an awesome song. Same with Who Are You? Absolutely love those two songs. Those are probably my favorite two that I have experienced now from The Who. So that's that. Did we get through them all already? Yes, we did. So to recap, Guns N' Roses, My Michelle, Think About You, Rocket Queen, Used to Love Her, and Don't Cry. Aerosmith, Sweet Emotion, Dream On, Back in the Saddle, Same Old Song and Dance, and Eat the Rich. Led Zeppelin, Whole Lotta Love, Immigrant Song, Misty Mountain Hop, Going to California, and Kashmir. Motley Crue, Piece of Your Action, On with the Show, Too Young to Fall in Love, SOS, and She Goes Down. And The Who, Won't Get Fooled Again, Who Are You? I Can See for Miles, You Better You Bet, and Eminence Front. So there you go. Just a little bit of positivity from Mr. Negative on Easter, giving some love to bands that I really never have a lot of good things to say about. So until the next video, I hope you all enjoy your Easter or your day off or whatever it is you're doing. And until next time, thanks for watching.